What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Loki Season 2, Episode 3, 1893. So we have another version of Kang, and if I'm being honest, after seeing this version, I'm kind of glad we're not getting the Council of Kang, because that, for me, is only 1 out of 3 that I've actually enjoyed watching him perform. And it's nothing against him. I think he's trying his best. He's trying to differentiate these characters. I get that. And this one, he's clearly going for that mad, eccentric scientist that we've seen before. The problem is, first of all, a lot of his lines are so drawn out. They're so long-winded, and he's taking these weird pauses, and he's doing the stereotypical, I'm going to suddenly enunciate on weird words out of nowhere. And it's just not entertaining to me. And maybe some of that is just because I've seen this character done better by other actors. And I really do kind of wonder, is it the directing that's the problem? Because I do remember first season of Loki, I didn't really enjoy He Who Remains that much either. So maybe it's just whoever's directing these 2 seasons of Loki is just not really bringing the best out of him. Because I thought when he was Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man Quantumania, I enjoyed that version of him. Either that or he's just not got the versatility as an actor to really branch out and play these different characters really well. I'm thinking like Tom Hardy, how well he's been able to play a huge range of characters. If you get somebody like that in this role, I think even when he's playing somebody so different from these other versions of the same character, I think it would still be enjoyable to watch. Unfortunately, this is just not. It's, like I said, long-winded. It was kind of cringy at times. It felt like he was just trying too hard to seem mad and eccentric, and I wasn't really believing it. I wasn't buying into the character. Getting that out of the way, first of all, because obviously that character is not going to be around for much longer, so his story doesn't really matter. But as far as the story for this episode, it was kind of all over the place. We see Miss Minutes and Ravonna trying to get him so they can, I guess, use him to recreate what we had in the TVA in season 1 of Loki, but with this version, maybe? It seems like He Who Remains gave Miss Minutes some instructions, but it's hard to tell whether she was following them or not, because by the end of it, it sort of felt like she was almost trying to convince this version of Kang to create a body for her so she could be with him romantically, because the other version of him didn't do that. So I don't know if she was going rogue and maybe going against some of his plans, or if this was part of the plan somehow. I will say, at the beginning of the episode, Miss Minutes is talking to Ravonna and says that if they give the package to young Victor Timely, then they would end up at his right hand, or by his side, once he's at the top of the TVA again. And at the end of the episode, they are both at his side, but it's the version of him that died at the end of time. So I don't know if this is something he foresaw, Miss Minutes sort of going against the plan and Ravonna kind of trying to do her own thing as well. But it feels very weird because I don't really know where a lot of the motivations are coming from. I think Ravonna is seemingly trying to get everything back to where it was in season 1, where it's one sacred timeline and there's a version of Kang at the top of it who is keeping everything in order. Obviously, we know Loki and Mobius are trying to get him back there so they can fix the loom, so that way now it's able to handle all of the different timelines that it's creating. And Miss Minutes, like I said, I have no idea what her motivations are. It just sort of came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, she notices Renslayer and Victor are kind of hitting it off a little bit, and all of a sudden she's jealous. And okay, where did this come from? And then she's betraying Ravonna. I don't know. It felt very messy, I feel like, with the story in this one. One thing I will say that I was having a little bit of a frustration with Loki, it does sort of feel like he doesn't use his magic enough in this show. Like, he has used it some, but there are some moments, like when Renslayer has Victor, what's that called? The time stick? Pruning stick. There we go. When it had him at the pruning stick end, it feels like Loki could have done some magic to get them out of that situation pretty easily. And it doesn't feel like he's been doing a lot of that in the tough situations. I'm not entirely sure why. Like, I know his magic is not able to be used in the TVA, so that's kind of a good negating capability there. But when they're out in the real world, I feel like he's not really using his magic in situations where it would be very easy for him to do that to solve the problem and take Victor back to the TVA problem solved. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. So I don't know. Maybe it's just they're trying to add that tension. They're trying to stretch it out a bit. But it does make it a little frustrating when you know Loki could probably do something in some of these situations, and he just doesn't really. We also do see Sylvie come back. I feel like her motivations are becoming a little bit clearer. It does feel like she's just content to kill all these Kangs. I'm glad that they had her decide at the end to help out a little bit in her own way to let them use Kang, because it did feel like she was a little too stubborn in the last episode. So I'm glad they kind of helped her realize what she was doing is almost kind of hindering the whole situation. And if she does want to go back to the simplistic life that she's set up in this timeline of hers, they probably need to fix the TVA so that way they can handle the Kang problem so she can keep this timeline. But outside of that, I mean, there's not really much else to talk about. I did like the setting. The music in this episode was also a lot of fun. It was a fun setup of an episode. Unfortunately, I just feel like the story, some of the character decisions, and like I said, the acting from Kang in this episode, I do feel like that all sort of brought it down for me. So a little frustrated with it. Hopefully the next episode sort of picks things back up. I mean, obviously we're halfway through the season, so the story does need to get going here soon. And we hopefully sort of get a sense of what this whole season is building towards. But I'm looking forward to at least seeing where the season's going to go. And I cannot say that I felt that in some of the other Marvel products that I've been watching recently. So steps in the right direction. There we go. But with all that being said, on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 4, Heart of the TVA. Honestly, the only issue I think I can think of, at least at the moment, for this episode is how did Renslayer and Miss Minutes get back from the end of time? I assume it's somehow Miss Minutes just has the ability to, I guess, hack into the TVA and maybe access some sort of door. That's the only thing I can think of. I do wish we'd gotten maybe a little bit of an explanation, but they just sort of skip over it. Like, the last thing we see from them is Miss Minutes telling Ravonna we don't need him. And then the next thing you know, they're breaking into the TVA and killing Dox and her team, which, brutal way to go. Just that whole scene, very, very intense. I will say the fact that X5 sort of turned on all of them and turned out to be kind of a bigger asshole than even he originally seemed. I was a little disappointed by that because it felt like maybe he saw what Dox and her team were trying to do, decided to be better and just go live his life, not try to wipe out all these timelines. So the fact that now at the end he just decides, you know what, I'm just going to help. I'm just going to help these evil people that are willing to kill this whole team of my friends and co-workers. Like that, to me, it just seemed like his turn to help Renslayer was a little sudden. But yeah, I think it's a pretty fun setup. I do have some theories about what happened there at the end. Some of them I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen now that the loom exploded. But when Timely was talking about going in there and taking the device in, I did start to have a theory forming, and it still could be possible, even though he got spaghettified, or spaghettification, I think is what on the ground in, I think it was episode 1. Like, whenever they opened the door to get in there, it was talking about the likelihood of spaghettification would go up by 7,000% if you cross the threshold. Great little detail that they threw in there. But I do have a bit of a theory that maybe this is what causes the Council of Kangs. Like, him getting split right there, spaghettified, basically splits himself over all of these timelines, and maybe also gives him some powers as well. And this is what creates the Council of Kangs. That's just the theory that I have, which would mean that right now this was the only version of him that existed. I do wonder if He Who Remains, if he knew all of this was going to happen, and so he kind of set things in motion because he knew if he didn't, then it's kind of one of those chicken and the egg. If you don't give them the egg, then the chicken won't be created for him to do that in the first place. So it would cause some weird time paradox that might have even worse consequences possibly. But yeah, that's just theory that popped into my head there. But I think a lot of this episode, pretty good build up to the end. I have no idea what the next 2 episodes are going to hold, but it was pretty exciting to see them getting ready, trying to figure out the device. Some of it was a little slow paced, but not too bad. I feel like there's definitely been worse cases of that so far this season. As far as this episode is concerned, I feel like even the slow paced moments, they felt more meaningful. It felt like there was actual purpose in having some of these, like the scene where Timely is getting the cup of cocoa for the one guard whose name I don't remember, and he gets pruned in this episode. But even that scene, it was kind of silly. It wasn't really leading to much, but then the guy gets pruned, and I don't know, something about it felt like it was just building up to something bad. Even though it was something as simple as he's just handing him a cup of cocoa, and it seems kind of silly, there was still this underlying sense of dread, like something bad was about to happen. So when the guy gets pruned, it's kind of a shock to the system. Like it catches you off guard a little bit. So I think they did do pretty well with pacing in this episode, in my opinion. But I think Dox and her team, we do see, I guess, a little bit more as far as the one episode that I felt was maybe a little bit filler with them bombing the timeline. We do see her team come to an end, and we do see what they were trying to do in there. I do kind of think the fact that they just all get killed is maybe a little simplistic, and I think they could have maybe done a bit more, maybe even have a few more people outside of X5 help Renslayer and Miss Minutes. That's a minor nitpick for me. It's just something that I feel like if she had a little bit more of a team, it could have led to maybe a bit more of a fun action scene whenever Loki and Sylvie get their powers back. How they handled it, it was very sudden. I was not expecting Renslayer to go down as easily as she did. So that was a little surprising. But I guess in my mind, I see that could have been kind of fun if some of Dox's team had decided to go with Renslayer. Loki and Sylvie, once they get their powers back, then they would have a little bit of a team to have to fight against with their magic. And I think that would have been a fun, exciting, climactic fight scene. So maybe a bit of a missed opportunity there, but nothing too bad. I still like what they did with it. How Sylvie managed to brain control or whatever. I can't remember. She has a term for it when she's controlling the people. I don't remember what it is now. But the way she used him, got close to Renslayer and pruned her, it was pretty clever. I will say something that I haven't really touched on too much, but I definitely noticed it in this episode a bit more, is I do feel like Ouroboros has been a fun addition for this season, where Timely, I feel like, is still not that great. Had a couple of funny lines here and there whenever Miss Minutes is glitching out and he said, mocking his impolite or whatever it was. That was a funny line, but the performance leaves a lot to be desired for me. I feel like OB has really been kind of the highlight as far as new characters brought in for this season, because obviously Loki, Sylvie, Mobius, all of them are still bringing their A games, but OB for me was the new character for this season that I'm really enjoying watching him. He's got a lot of great little lines here and there, his reactions as well, his comedic timing is spot on too, so definitely a fun character to have and has been a highlight for this season in my opinion. But I think that's about it for this episode. Obviously with 2 episodes left, it feels like I don't really know what to expect. They are definitely getting me guessing and interested to see how this is all going to come to an end, because I really was wondering as they were suiting up Timely to go in and put the device into the loom. I did wonder, okay, so what are we going to do from here though? We still have 2 episodes left, and it seems like they're about to fix the problem, so what could we possibly do next? So I do like the fact that it's not easy to predict. It's not easy to figure out what the next step is going to be. I like that. I like it whenever writers can sort of keep me guessing and trying to figure out more and trying to figure out what their plan is for the end of this season. So it's pretty exciting, very interesting in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Loki reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of TV show reviews as well as a couple Let's Plays on there, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.